Hello and welcome to Tech Deals, AMD's Ryzen 7 3800X PC build guide. Do you want to play and live stream any game at 1080p or 1440p? Do you want to play games at up to 144 frames per second? Do you want to create 4K video content, 3D animations, or multitask mini programs? You've come to the right place. This is part one of a three-part video guide on this $2,000 build. It is not top of the line, but it's solid performance at that price point, and there's relatively few compromises. You could, of course, $100 yourself to $3,000 if you're not careful, and we'll talk about what improvements you can make at a higher price point later in this video. But for $2,000, this is a very nice build with great performance for the money. Part two of this video guide will be the actual build itself. The camera will be overhead and it'll be a detailed step-by-step build showing the assembly of all of these parts, cable management, wiring, and as a bonus, some of the challenges and difficulties that you run into when you're custom building a PC. Part three of this series is going to be the game benchmarks and non-gaming benchmarks, system performance, temperature, noise testing, because we do have some very nice Noctua fans and coolers here, so we'll do that in part three of the video. But this video is all about part selection, why they were picked, the pros and cons of them, and I'll talk briefly about how you can move up and down in each component, what benefit that provides, and what it does to the budget. You will find links to all of the products that are on the desk today, as well as some of the alternatives we're going to discuss down in the video description below. Those links are to Amazon, Newegg, and eBay. They are affiliate links. Using those while shopping supports the channel at no extra cost to you. So if you found this video helpful, informative, and useful, it would be greatly appreciated if you use those while shopping. In addition, I want to give a huge shout out to Gigabyte for sponsoring this video today. They provided support. You'll see a bunch of Gigabyte products here on the desk. Thank you very much to them for providing that. However, the opinions given in this video are on my own. They didn't have any say in the content, and they did not see it before it was published. So you can trust that this is what I really think. Custom PCs are just that. Custom. This is designed to be a guide to help you get started to build a premium system for the purposes I stated at the beginning of the video. For sure, you may very well want to pick alternative parts, a different motherboard, different video card, a different case. Cases are highly personal choices. So by all means, feel free to customize it as you see fit. If you have questions about component selection or if something is appropriate, by all means, leave a comment down in the comment section below, and for a few days after these publish, I go through those and provide answers. You can also join the Tech Deals Discord, also linked down below. We have a great community of people down there, and if you're a supporter of the channel, either here, Floatplane, Twitch, or Patreon, then you have access to our private chat channels, and we can provide you with some help custom building a machine. And with that being said, let's dive right into it, starting with the CPU. Now, throughout each of these parts, I'm going to talk about why I picked the part and what you can do to go up and down from there in terms of benefits, pros, cons, price, etc. But not too much, or this video will be an hour long. The CPU we have here is the Ryzen 7 3800X. I am aware the 3700X exists. When I'm recording this video, there's a $30 price difference between them, and for $30 or about 10% of the CPU or a very small percentage of the machine, I think you're better off taking the top of the line chip. It's been better, it clocks faster, and it comes with 2 free games when I'm recording this, whereas the 3700X only comes with 1. 8 cores, 16 threads, up to 4.5 gigahertz, and these are Zen 2 cores. It is very, very close in performance to an i9 9900K for a lot less money, nearly $200 less money, and it includes a cooler, which the i9 9900K does not, so really it's about $200 less. There are essentially 2 main options here. Go up to the Ryzen 9 3900X, which is only advised for those people who are serious about not only live streaming everything today, but live streaming everything for the next 3 years and want no limitations or restrictions, or more appropriately, content creators. If you're serious about 4K video editing and 3D animation, get the Ryzen 9. Everybody else can save the money and get the Ryzen 7 3800X. You can go down to a Ryzen 5 3600X. I know a lot of people are going to say, but you only need 6 cores to play games. Live streaming PC, I stated that at the beginning. I think you give up a lot to save $100 to go down to a 3600X over a 3800X. And for the rest of the components in this system, it's not worth the savings. Spend a little bit more, get this CPU, it's here for a reason. I think it's the best balance at this price point, and you'll have many, many years of amazing performance and the ability to play and stream any game. Next up, we need to talk about the CPU cooler. Those of you playing the home game may have noticed I have a Noctua NH-U12S Chromax Black Edition sitting on the desk. But wait, you say, doesn't the Ryzen 7 3800X come with a cooler? In fact, it comes with an RGB Wraith Prism cooler. What in the world do you need to add a cooler for? I've covered this on the channel in the past. The Wraith Prism does the job. It is pretty. It does cool the CPU effectively, but at full load, it is not quiet. If you want a silent machine, if you want something that is not going to make a lot of noise even under 100% full load, especially if you're Twitch streaming or Mixer streaming, and you want a very quiet gaming environment with no feedback from the machine, then buying an aftermarket cooler gives you performance and silence. It will cool the CPU, let it boost to the maximum performance possible while making basically no noise. It is a $70 cooler. It is not inexpensive, but it's a premium cooler, and frankly, Noctua makes the best tower coolers in the business. So if you're building a $2,000 premium machine for streaming or content creation and you want silence, I would put a Noctua cooler in it. Now, you can go up or down from there. You could certainly go with an NHD15 Black for $100, but it's overkill. You don't need that much cooling for a CPU like this. Can you go cheaper? You can. You can find some $30 and $40 coolers, but they'll be a little bit louder, a little bit less effective. They'll be a little bit harder to install. And would saving another $20-ish on your $2,000 build, that's 1%, really make a difference? For a $2,000 build, buy a Noctua cooler. Moving right along to our system RAM, we have 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 in this build. That's the RAM that I have that Gigabyte sent me. If you are buying new RAM at this point at the end of 2019, starting in early 2020, I would go ahead and get DDR4 3600. And the reason for that is because Zen 2 supports it very well. It's right up at the limit of what the Infinity Fabric supports, and it's only, as of the time of this filming, $6 more expensive than the least expensive 3200. But I have 3200 in here because that's what I have. I would not go down to 16 gigabytes of RAM. It makes no sense whatsoever. At a $2,000 budget, it's just over $100 to get 32 gigs of RAM at this point. For a streaming machine, a content creation machine, 8-core, 16 threads, 16 gigabytes is no longer even an option for a new build today. 64 gigabytes is nice, but we're premature for that, and at this price point and budget, the extra money is better put other places. You can, but I would get 32 gigabytes today and maybe consider upgrading to 64 in the future. Next to the CPU, or perhaps even more important, is the graphics card. You can't build a gaming machine without one, and here we have one of the best values in terms of dollar cost per frame per second on the market today. The AMD RX 5700 XT Navi graphics card, $400, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6. I have covered this extensively on the channel. Multiple videos comparing this to the various NVIDIA options, comparing it to the older cards. In terms of performance for the money, it beats NVIDIA in terms of the NVIDIA equivalent options currently offered. It's faster than a RTX 2060 Super and just slightly slower than an RTX 2070 Super. But an RTX 2070 Super is $100 more, and a 2060 Super is slower. Now, I don't want to get into the whole should you buy NVIDIA or AMD in this video. It's a build guide, and that, frankly, topic has been covered. I've got a variety of comparisons. In fact, there's a video on my channel comparing the 2060 Super versus the 5700 XT. Go watch that video if you would like a long version of that comparison. Here's what I will say. If you're building an AMD machine and you want everything in your computer to be AMD because you don't want to give any money to Team Green or Team Blue, then for this level computer, this is your only choice. You could skip the XT card and go down to just the straight RX 5700, but if you've got a $2,000 budget, you're getting an 8-core 16-thread CPU with 32 gigs of RAM and you want to live stream, the extra money for the XT card, in my opinion, is worth it. Now you need something to put all of your components into. That leads us to the computer case. Computer cases are deeply, deeply personal choices. You have Cooler Master, Corsair, NZXT, Fractal Design, and many, many more. I couldn't possibly go through all the case choices, nor am I even going to try. This is a Cooler Master Master Box MB511 non-RGB case. There is also an RGB version of this with 3 RGB fans in the front and a tempered glass side panel for $30 more. It's very nice. This has an acrylic side panel, but it has the benefit of being a very lightweight case. Amazing airflow in the front. You do want a case with good airflow if noise is a concern. With less airflow, you're going to have higher temps, more noise from the air rushing through the system, and we'll talk about the fans in just a minute, but there's great airflow in this case. If you have an extra $50 to spend, I strongly encourage you to jump up to the next level of case beyond this. Cooler Master has a case called the H500. It's a little bit wider, a little bit taller. It has a very nice carry handle on top, glass on the side, and 2 200mm RGB fans on the front with absolutely spectacular airflow. But it is more expensive, and of course, as I said at the beginning of this video, you can $100 yourself to $3 grand if you're not careful. So we're using the MB511. It really was not that bad to build into. It's got ventilation on the top, ventilation on the front, ventilation on the back, and as you'll see in part 2 of this build series, building this really wasn't the challenge. I just prefer larger cases. That's a personal thing. So consider checking that out. I'll put a link to that in the video description below. Powering this system is a 750 watt, 80 plus gold, fully modular gigabyte Aorus power supply. I have actually used this in previous builds in the past. In fact, I've got a computer across the room that I use in my filming room that has one of these power supplies in it. Works great. It's extremely silent, no problems whatsoever. However, 750 watt, 80 plus gold power supplies are not the least expensive things in the world. One option you have is to drop down to an 80 plus bronze and thus save yourself about $50. You can then take that $50 and put it into a nicer case if you prefer. One of the benefits of a really nice power supply is you get fan stop modes, higher efficiency levels, and the fact that if you're only pulling about 50% of the power supply's total capacity, then the power supply runs more efficient. You can use a 500 watt 80 plus bronze without any problem in this build. This video card's going to pull about 220 watts. The CPU is going to pull about 115, 120 watts absolute max. Everything else put together is maybe 30 or 40 watts total. In theory, a 400 watt power supply would run it, but that'd be cutting it kind of tight. 500 is all you need, but you'll be running at 80% of the power supply's total capacity, and thus it will be less efficient. It will work, it will be reliable, but it will not be as efficient. So by going to maybe 650 or 750 watts, you gain efficiency, lower fan noise, and frankly, better features, because as you go up in the power supplies, fully modular, more cables, more connectors are all very nice to have. It's awfully hard to boot your new gaming system without a boot drive, and at this price point, there's really only one option, an NVMe M.2 SSD, and we've gone premium this time. Gigabytes Aorus PCI Express Gen 4 NVMe drive, 5 GB per second sequential transfer rates. That thing is fast. Now, I've previously reviewed that drive and covered it in another video, so I won't get into too much detail, except to say the prices have come down since that video was published. At the time, I said it was a little bit too expensive for what it offered, but now it's $200. It's only about $50 more expensive than, say, a Samsung 970 EVO first gen drive, and it's faster, so that's not bad. For an extra $50, we've got a PCI Express Gen 4 motherboard, which we'll talk about in a minute. So if you want that little extra boost, go ahead and do it. If you're looking for a place to save, there's nothing wrong with getting a $150 1 terabyte boot drive instead. Now, we do have some other storage options as well, and storage is a highly personal choice. The $2,000 budget does include all 3 SSDs you see here on the desk. We have a 2 terabyte Samsung 860 Evo. That is a SATA drive, not an NVMe drive, although it's an M.2 slot. And we have a 1 terabyte Samsung 860 QVO, which is a QLC drive. Now, I had that on the shelf, which is why it went into the build. In reality, I would get an Intel 660p 1 terabyte NVMe drive, or a Crucial P1, or a Sambrit Rocket, or an Inland Professional 1 terabyte drive in place of the Samsung QVO. It's just, I had it on the shelf, which is why I used it. About $100 budget for that drive. This provides us with 4 terabytes of SSD space, some of it NVMe, some of it SATA. At this price point, all of your games should be installed on SSDs. You shouldn't be using hard drives on this at all. If you have videos, data, archives, backups, etc., use external hard drives so you can unplug them and turn them off so that you're not listening to all that noise while you're live streaming. You can, of course, drop the price of the system by taking some of the storage out, but it's worth noting that SSD space is only about $100 per terabyte these days, so it's not that expensive to put all your games on SSDs. Now we need some place to install all of this awesome stuff. We are using Gigabyte's X570 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi motherboard, $230. You can absolutely spend more than this, and you can spend less than this. For a $2,000 build, $200-ish is about the right place to be. 10% of your system price is a good choice for allocating to your motherboard. If you cut the motherboard back below this, then you're giving up too many features. The $150 to $170 boards give up a ton of features. They give up power delivery, USB ports, expansion options. They don't have as good RGB, if you care about such things. They frankly aren't a good value because you're saving 25% of the money and often giving up 50% of the features. Going above this board is also not necessarily good value. There's some very nice $300 to $400 motherboards, but you're getting incrementally smaller features once you go above that $300 price point. So $200 to $250 is the sweet spot. Now, as far as brand goes, Gigabyte, MSI, Asus, and ASRock all make very, very nice boards. Gigabyte was nice enough to send this to me, but I've used the other brands in various builds, and frankly, it comes down to preference. Which motherboard manufacturer do you prefer? There's nothing inherently great or terrible about any of them. It's just differences in terms of option, feature, selection, price, and whatever's on sale that week. I would not bother with an X470 at this point. You're buying a $330 CPU, 32 gigs of RAM, multiple NVMe drives. You've got a $2,000 budget. Don't be cheap. Don't get an X470 board. Yes, I know they work, but especially if you want to have the option to upgrade to Zen 3 or a 12 or 16 core chip in the future, this motherboard has 12+2 digital power phases. It has all the power in the world to run a Ryzen 9 3950X in the future, or a Ryzen 9 4950X if you want to upgrade to Zen 3 at some point in the future. So $200, $250 is where you want to be. For a premium system such as this, you want to have some case fans. Now, more expensive cases do come with fans, and the good ones, such as the H500 from Cooler Master, come with very nice 200mm fans that are legitimately quiet. I have a running machine in that case sitting in the room that I'm filming, and you can't hear it because those 200mm fans are very quiet. However, if you want performance and silence and your case doesn't come with nice fans, allow me to recommend Noctua's fans. These are wonderful. These are the Chromax black fans. No more of that nasty brown color. They've got all the different sizes from sub 120mm going all the way up to 200mm in black now available. These are not the least expensive fans. We installed 4 fans in this case, 3 120mm and 1 140mm. So yes, there are $80 worth of Noctua fans in this case. $140 of the $2,000 budget went to Noctua between the cooler and the fans. But this system is basically silent running, and the amount of airflow means that temperatures will never be an issue whatsoever. 2 intake fans, 1 exhaust fan, and 140mm on the top, also exhausting out the top. The airflow is spectacular. The temps, as I'll show you in part 3 of this video series, are basically a non-factor whatsoever. They're wonderful. You can buy cheaper fans. You can buy $5 fans. You get what you pay for. You can put fewer fans in. You could certainly put 1 in the front, 1 in the back, and nothing on the top and let heat rising do most of the work for you, but your components will run a little bit hotter, and the Fans will have to turn a little bit faster to get the air flowing through it, but it's an option if you're trying to save some money. Or just spend $50 more on your case and get a case that comes with more fans to begin with. The total price of this build as I constructed it at the end of 2019 is just under $2,000. Now that price varies from day to day, so when you watch this video it may be more or less, and it certainly will be different depending upon where in the world you're at. I'm using US-based prices. I do want to emphasize the point that it's absolutely possible to build a less expensive Ryzen 7 3800X and RX 5700 XT base system. $2,000 is not required, but it's a premium build. Premium cooler, premium fans, premium power supply. Everything in this build is really, really nice. Yes, from a pure frame rate point of view, the CPU and the graphics card pretty much are like 95% of all of your frames. And if that's all you care about, sure, you can save 25% or more on the budget on this system. Do you want it to be silent? Do you want it to be fast loading games, installing games, launching Windows? These NVMe drives and the Samsung drives are awesome performers. They're not the cheapest options available, but they are fast and they make your system really pleasant to use. Technically, 32 gigs of RAM is not necessary, but frankly, I think 16 gigs is being penny wise and pound foolish. Don't leap over dollars to pick up pennies. That's the last place you should save money in this build. And of course, you could use the stock cooler, and you can use less expensive fans, and you could save hundreds of dollars by cutting things back. But if you want a system that's going to last you 5+ years where everything just runs cool and quiet really well with great performance from the RAM to the storage to the graphics card to the CPU to the motherboard with future upgradability to a nice case with tons of cooling options, $2,000 builds you a luxury PC. Be sure that you're subscribed and you hit that bell notification icon down there for when part 2 and part 3 of this video series comes out. Don't want to wait? We got you covered. Please consider joining Floatplane. Linked in the video description below, you'll find our link to Floatplane. For $5 a month, you get early access to videos, no ads on the videos, and exclusive behind-the-scenes coverage. You also get access to the private chat channels on the Tech Deals Discord. I mentioned those earlier in the video, and it directly supports the channel and helps us bring more content to you. We have over 40 exclusive videos not on YouTube over on Floatplane, and you can watch them all by signing up using the link in the video description below. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you love it. Remember to subscribe to our channel with a big, huge red button directly below. Questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, suggestions, put those in the comments section below. Any questions on changing components on this, that's definitely where those go. Check out the links in the video description. Again, Amazon, Newegg, and eBay affiliate links down below. Supports the channel at no extra cost to you. It's greatly appreciated. Another shout out and thank you to Gigabyte for sponsoring this video. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. I will see all of you next time.